Okay, here we go. We're starting the 5th series. And, well, we got dog 34. Old Alabama boy got his Crimson Tide hat on. Dog 34 is coming up. So we've got an interrupted triple and a double blind. So they shoot 3 birds, left bird, right bird, center bird. You pick up a bird. You run a blind just to the left of the left gun station. Pick up the rest of the marks. And then you run a blind to the tip of the point to the right of the left mark. So you'll see it here in just a minute. Mr. Jay Bourne coming up. Left bird. Number 1. Right hand bird number 2. All right. Middle bird number 3. Island bird. Okay. So Jay picks up the go bird, the last bird down. Big beautiful pond in the background. A lot of history to this piece of property. Owned by Dave Mosier. Sugarfoot. A bunch of great dogs have seen this pond. They've had 2 national amateurs here. Oh, darn Jay. On the go bird. He hunted the bird under the arc. And I don't know if he winded the left bird, but all of a sudden he showed up left, romping to the left, and he had to put a handle on him. So, well, he didn't have much choice. Certainly would have been probably a switch. By the way he's acting, he's winding that left-hand bird. Okay, well, he's having a substantial handling on the last bird down. It happens, you know, you've got a big plan, you're deciding how you're going to do the blind and how you're going to do the second and third mark, and you end up having trouble on the first bird retrieved. Not much you can do about that. Certainly from Jay's standpoint, I mean, you can do a lot as a handler, but you can't put the bird in their mouth on their own. They've got to do that on their own. And okay, so they've planted the blind left of the left gun. And that's what you're going to do next. You're going to pick that up. Instructions are that you pick up a bird, and then you send for the blind left of the short, or the left-hand station. It's essentially just 3 or 4 steps left of the holding blind that's concealing the left station. Okay, got a nice, reasonable initial line. Now, sometimes these dogs aren't going to want to cast. That's essentially like casting at a gun, but okay. Okay. Now he's going to pick up the remainder of the marks. He's trying to make him come back honestly on the return. Yeah, they got a little bit of a sloppy, muddy spot there. The dog tripped in a little bit. So he's going to go for the mark just to the right of the blind he just picked up. And I can see how that makes sense. I think the dog's more apt to understand he's just been to the blind if you go right back at that mark, so right after they pick up the blind. And he's in a good spot. It's a big throw. It goes almost to the blind marker. Not quite, but almost to the blind marker for the next blind. Okay, dog's hunting around. I'm sure we're going to see some dogs hunting the blind location to the right of this mark, but the judges said that bird hasn't been picked up, it hasn't been planted, so there's no such thing as a switch or return to the old fall if the dog goes to the blind marker on the right. Now the one on the left, different story, different story. If he goes back to the blind on the left, that is returning to the old fall, to the old location. Prairie retrieve, okay. Oh, it's down just over the ledge a little bit, a little tricky spot. Boy, if the birds land there, I could see them having a little trouble. You notice how the dog kind of had to actually poke his head down in the pond itself. With the wind blowing left to right here, well, you don't wind it up on land where the gun station is. So you're going to have to be smart about hunting that bird. Okay, so he's got the right-hand mark to go and the second blind. Okay. Now grabs a little bit, and again, once again, the cheat kind of puts them under the arc of that bird. This is a second handle on this test, and oftentimes that's kind of the kiss of death here. We'll see what he does, but handle on the go bird is handled on this right-hand bird. He elected to do a quick handle. Once again, well designed, where if a dog hangs onto the land and cheats, it puts him in a bad spot, makes it harder to find the mark. Okay, they're planting the second blind now. Gun station runs out to the tip of the point. There's a stick in the ground with a either painted orange on the tip or a piece of orange tape. I'm not sure which, but it marks the blind. The line to this blind gets pretty square entry. Goes just, and then I mean just outside the fall area of that left-hand mark. So the dog wants to go back into that mark. He's going to get up on that piece of land on the left and maybe give you a little trouble. Okay. Requires an early whistle, kind of headed back towards mark. Now this is his fifth retrieve. Now they're not long, but it is warm. It's mid-80s, mid to upper 80s. And you could see this dog was puffing pretty good. So now they're fatigue's starting to play a role. Now the dog was not too far off line, but Jay really knew that he was kind of favoring getting on that land on the left. And if you wait too long to change their mind, it's hard to do that. It looks like that whistle was just right. He's so far, but he's going to hit a little running shallow water here. And now he's being pretty honest at this point. You can tell the dog is probably touching the bottom, but no, he's went on through. Pretty much right on line. One or two steps out of the water. And there's the bird. Okay, we have dog 35 coming to line. Dog 35, second running dog. Okay, dog 35 gets set. Remember, left bird, right bird, center bird. Nice big throw. That bird's thrown just in that little pocket of water over the ledge. Big throw on the right, nice big, tall, arcing bird, and now your go bird, which turned out to be difficult for our first running dog. All right, Lou is off. Okay, well, I can't see him right now, and neither can you, I think, and neither can the handler. That's actually an island they're throwing the bird to. And he's out on the right edge of the island, and that should get his desired result. So he's picked up the go bird, clean. They're planting the blind just to the left of the first bird shot. And the line of that bird catches a corner of the water. Got some tall grass in front that if a dog got in and maybe skirted left, you might not be able to see him. Judges are smiling up there, having fun, keeping the handlers enjoying the game. Okay, Mr. Pine delivers the bird, gets himself set. All right. So he did something interesting. He identified the mark, then knowed the dog off the mark. Set him up for the blind. Set him. There's a whistle about the third of the way to the blind. You don't know if a dog is going for the mark or just trying to be honest and get a little more water there, but you've got to get a left-handed cast here, which he's getting. Give a left angle back. And he got it. Gives a left straight back. He's in a pretty good spot. All right. 2 whistles. Navigated that pretty soundly. Looks like he's setting up to pick up the mark just to the right of the blind, and that probably makes sense. Gets back in the box here. The judges may have told him to come back behind the line. So he's 2 birds down, 3 to go. Okay, Blue gets in. He definitely has a right hand lean, which is pretty much right at the bird at this point. Now remember, the blind that he picks up last is not down. So there really is, I guess the only risk is that they get in the scent of that blind, but it's really not that far from the mark. So this dog's going dead at the bird, and he's being honest. If anything, he's showing a tendency and a willingness to maybe hunt in the water. Comes back a little bit. Checking out. Glances towards the line, but I certainly wouldn't call that. I think the dog was just searching, just checking in the water. You can tell when he got out of the water, he still established his hunt, and yeah. Be darned. That is tricky. It looked like he was almost right on top of that bird. But he did come back, and looks like he popped here. Gonna have a handle. I couldn't tell, in that hunt when he came back towards us, he was looking at his handler. But he kept hunting, and then that time he did come back and pop, required a cast to get to the bird. Okay. There's going to be different theories on ways. Order of pickup is always tricky. In some ways you think, all right, go right back at that bird because there's clarity about the left-hand blind. But he's knowed him off of that bird. He's denied it. And you could sense a little bit with a really willing dog as he was looking for permission to pick it up and was maybe a little confused. If you go for the right-hand bird second and you let that area kind of cool off, in other words, just leave it for a minute, then go back in there, Then you do pose the risk of them going back to the blind a little more, but maybe they're a little more relaxed going in there. So it's a dog by dog thing. And when it doesn't go well, you're always going to second guess yourself a little bit. This right-hand bird catches a corner of a pond in front, angles a road, goes back in the water. And it's that big throw is going to really require a dog to, well, A, show a mark, and B, show some discipline and some water ethics. Now, this dog is taking a lot of the first pond. He's crossed the road. He's going to get some water. You can certainly see the wheels turning as he crossed the road. He's onto the point that the finger will land the birds on, but there he makes a little bit of a left move. Well, he's definitely looking for a bird, so I would expect him to come up with this mark. Okay, which he did. All right, so you're going to see him go out and plant the blind for the fifth and final retrieve. So first dog handled on 2, second dog handled on 1 of the 3 marks. So they certainly got some teeth in this test. And this is their 5th series. They're deep into this event, and there's one more to go after this. So these folks are hanging on. They're trying to get to the end and get a pass on this Master Amateur event. Big, beautiful piece of water in the background. Like I said, this property produced a lot of great field trail dogs. The 1981 National Amateur was here. Excuse me, the 1980 National Amateur. I have that wrong. A dog named Longhorns Cadillac Mac won the National Amateur here. And then last year, 2024, the National Amateur was here. Mark Menzies and Flirt won. 10th series was in this very pond. So it's very fitting. All right. Handler sends him with a firm back, gets a nice initial line. Dog actually pushes off a little bit. It's a nice cast. Well, he's pretty much right on line now. Handler wants to challenge that left-hand point a little bit, show the judges that he can stay on line. This dog is really doing what a trained dog's going to do. He's going to try to be safe. He's going to try to be conscientious. And I think that's, in hindsight, that's probably what caused his angst when he did that mark over there. He was just a little bit uncertain that he was doing the right thing. And all right, there he's got the blind. Dog 35. All right, Joe Hadsel and dog 37 going to line. Third running dog in the 5th series. It's another warm day, not quite as hot as yesterday. Has a nice breeze. There goes bird number 1. Consistent big throw. That one got a splash. In a little pocket. Well-placed bird there, by the way. And so was this one. Nice big throw. Another splash out on the finger. And this is a hand-thrown bird, it looks like. I saw out to the island. I can see a wing up. And dog 37 is on its way. And looks pretty confident. The only specific instructions the judges have given is that you will pick up a mark. You will run the left-hand blind after you pick up one of the marks. You pick up the other two marks in any order you choose, and then you finish with another blind. They can't dictate what order you pick the marks up in. They won't, but they will tell you when you run the blinds. Okay, so dog 37's retrieved the go bird. Okay. Joey has a whistle just out of the water, and then another one to kind of square this dog up, and looks like she's in a good spot. 2 whistles so far. You don't want to take the end of this for granted, though. The dog is. You can see how this dog put his head down a little bit. He's got a little bit of hunt mode, but okay, there's a bird.
He's going to have to pee. I'm parked so tight that.
Okay, all right. So we've got
Thank you.
one mark, one blind retrieved. Now it looks like Joey's thinking about going for this right-hand bird next, which, okay. I can see the argument for that. Pushes a little wider, goes left of the first pond, but it gets you a lot more water in the pond where the bird is in. And at the end of the day, it's all about, does the dog know where the bird is? Threw his head up there a little bit. You notice when he passed on the downwind side of the island bird, the first bird retrieved, but said, wait a minute, I've been there, and made a right-hand break, and looks like he's headed towards the mark. Really close to it, and a yes. Well, wait a minute, making game on this bird. Hunting down towards the base of the point. This bird landed in the water on the back side of the point. There was a splash. Probably, I think the dog just broke back for the bird. You gotta like this dog's perseverance, came up with the bird. But that bird landed on the water on the back side of that deal, and could have gotten in trouble there, but the dog used good sense and figured it out. Now he's got one more mark. Joey's got one more mark. And a water blind to do yet. Well, she doesn't. Dog must have given her a pretty good look because she didn't waste much time sending. Got a pretty nice breeze here. Let's say 10 to 15 miles an hour. And she's in a good spot under the arc of this bird. Making a move towards the bird. Dog really shows that it knows where I think so far. And yes. Lovely. Very, very nice. So she's going to give the other handler something to think about the order of pickup. We were just talking about that. What will typically happen is you'll see people experiment on some of these complicated tests on order of pickup, and oftentimes there's one order that the dogs just do better on, and it isn't always explainable why that is. But Joey receives in the little holding blind near the line to give the blind planter time to get the blind planted. Dog coming in hot, and he says, I think I'm done. Well, that is the one thing on these tests with multiple deals. You don't want them, they still got work to do. And if they think they're done, sometimes it's hard to get them back in work mode, but it looks like she was able to do just that and get him thinking, I got another retrieve to do. But you can see a little bit of the uncertainty. I had a little, I think that was a pop. I did not hear a whistle, but there's a whistle there and a cast. Dog's starting to favor the land where that mark was that it just retrieved, but pretty much on line if she can stay aggressive here. Dog makes a little bit of a wide loopy turn to the left, which worries you a little bit. He's thinking about throwing his nose up, thinking like, I'd like to get up there again. This is a pretty critical cast right here. But she's giving him a little bit of trouble here. Maybe more than a little trouble. Not quite what she was looking for. This dog definitely showed an interest in getting out, and it can be fatigue. So I'm sure she was hoping for a little better ending to that blind.